190 million pounds. That's how much Guardiola is prepared to spend on two players. A desperate move or a genius plan? Rashford is heading back to England. Galatasaray are pulling off a blockbuster transfer. The Turkish club are signing a Manchester United star for 60 million euros. Liverpool have found a new center back. All this and much more in today's episode. Let's try to hit 300 likes on this video, and we'll be back tomorrow with more transfer madness. Hit that like button, and let's dive in. The most interesting transfer stories rarely begin with a press release. Right now, one of the most intriguing names moving quietly in the background is Alphonso Davies. According to Team Talk, the groundwork is being handled by agents, and they are actively knocking on Premier League doors with a clear message that a deal for the Bayern Munich fullback is genuinely on the table. It is an odd situation because Davies is fully settled at Bayern and committed to the project, yet his name keeps surfacing in talks with English clubs. He is 25, he has bounced back brilliantly from his ACL injury, and that explosive pace is fully back. That goes a long way to explaining why people are suddenly paying attention. Two clubs have moved to the front of the queue, and the logic for both is easy to follow. For Liverpool, this is about planning ahead, because Andy Robertson is not going to be there forever. Replacing a player who has defined an entire era at left back is a genuinely difficult puzzle, and Davies solves a lot of it almost immediately. Over at Old Trafford, it is a different story altogether, and honestly a messier one. Luke Shaw is technically still first choice on the left, but his fitness record has been a running issue for years, and the squad desperately needs reliable cover in that position. Davies would not just plug that gap, he would give the manager far more tactical options, and it could even push Patrick Dorgu into a more advanced role, which is interesting. So, would Davies actually fix United? The positives are real, because he brings serious pace, quick defensive recovery, and an attacking threat in transition that United have badly lacked. The concern, though, is obvious. United have a habit of spending big on individual positions while ignoring bigger structural problems, and that pattern is hard to miss. Bayern, for their part, are in no rush whatsoever. Davies signed a new deal all the way through to 2030, just before his injury, so Munich are not sitting there desperate to sell, but Bayern are calculating people. And if a genuinely big financial offer lands from the Premier League, the tone of those conversations will change very quickly. England has always been willing to pay serious money for a player who can transform the tempo of an entire team. And if Liverpool or United start pushing properly, getting Davies to the Premier League might only be a matter of time. Everyone talks about those 115 financial charges when Manchester City come up, but the bigger issue may be building on the pitch at the Etihad. Pep Guardiola's perfect machine could lose the player who keeps so much of it running. According to Caught Offside, Bernardo Silva, now 31, has told the club he is leaving this summer, and he is set to go on a free. His deal is expiring, and the bags are being packed. The Portuguese midfielder has loved Manchester, but he now wants a new challenge, and his agents have gone into full Hoover mode, checking every market they can. He wants two things: a side that can still compete and wages that match his status. That is not an easy mix to find. Yes, the Saudi Pro League is part of the picture, although no specific clubs have been named, and in MLS, the strongest interest is coming from Los Angeles. If Bernardo still fancies one more run at the top level, Juventus, Napoli, Atletico Madrid, and, because it always seems to happen, Barcelona are already hovering. The Catalans are back in for a player with serious financial demands, so maybe Joan Laporta has found a couple of spare economic levers up in the loft. Strip the jokes away for a second, because this is not just about losing a clever midfielder. Silva is Pep's trusted man on the pitch, the brain of the side, and a real leader in the dressing room. Losing him would hurt enough, but if Bernardo and Rodri both leave in the same window, and those rumors have been around for a while, then we could be watching the breakup of the greatest British dynasty of recent years. So the question becomes simple: who is the last one to switch off the lights at City's training ground? It does not stop there for the Etihad hierarchy, because Manchester City are planning a full-blown midfield overhaul, and they are ready to throw 190 million pounds at it. Pep Guardiola can see the issue clearly. His perfect machine is starting to come apart, and the cracks are getting worse by the week. Bernardo Silva is already packing his bags, and Rodri has suddenly decided that Real Madrid is a very appealing option for his future. Talks over a new bumper contract for Rodri have hit a dead stop. Both sides are playing the waiting game, and with each passing day the mood is shifting more towards a split. The amusing part is that Rodri does not seem remotely bothered about his Atletico Madrid roots. When the Bernabeu is dangling in front of you, and you could become the main man at the biggest club on the planet, that old loyalty to Atletico starts to evaporate very quickly. Hugo Viana, the sporting director, has been tasked with plugging those gaps, and he is going absolutely massive. English outlets are reporting that City want to raid Newcastle and Nottingham Forest for Sandro Tonali and Elliot Anderson. with the combined price tag sitting right at 190 million. City are prepared to pay 90 million for Anderson, but across the city, Manchester United are in the mix as well, and fancy the young lad as the perfect spine of their midfield rebuild. Anderson is not just sitting back quietly either, because he is pushing for guarantees that Guardiola will stick around. Pep keeps saying he is staying until 2027, but we all know how quickly those promises crumble when things start going sideways. Speaking of promises, some of you are just as unreliable. You have watched 5 videos, you have told yourself you will subscribe next time, and you just keep drifting. YouTube feeds me the analytics, and most of you are watching completely under the radar. So let us sort this out properly. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, and do it the way normal people do. Meanwhile, Antoine Semenyo and Marc Guehi clearly did not let any transfer noise hold them up because they both joined City in the January window. A decent wage packet has a way of clearing up any doubts, but the Tonali deal is where it gets really juicy, because the Italian is valued at 100 million, and that price tag basically kills off any chance of a Serie A return. No Italian club can afford that right now, which means City have a pretty clean run at him. It could get even smoother, because there are whispers about a gentleman's agreement with Newcastle. The word is that the Magpies would let Tonali go without a scrap if they fail to qualify for the Champions League. Trusting a gentleman's agreement in modern football is incredibly naive, but if that door is genuinely open, City will sprint through it without looking back. They are also keeping a close eye on Tino Livramento, so it looks like they fancy doing a proper bulk shop at St. James's Park. The question now is whether Viana can get all of this done before competitors drive the prices into the stratosphere. Replacing what Rodri gives you in midfield is almost impossible, but when you have that kind of financial muscle, you can always try to solve a tactical headache with a checkbook. Liverpool look as though they have finally realized the obvious, because you cannot keep patching up the defense with the same old options forever. The club are ready to put serious money down for real authority in the penalty area, and the main name on the list is Murillo. He is the 23-year-old Nottingham Forest centre-back, the same lad Forest picked up from Corinthians in 2023 for peanuts. Now they want £80 million for him, which sounds absolutely wild, but Team Talk say Liverpool scouts have checked him from every angle, and the Reds are seriously considering writing that check. Why is there so much noise around a player at a club fighting near the bottom? Because Murillo has quite clearly outgrown Forest. He flies into tackles, wins his headers, stays cool under pressure, and drives forward with the ball like a proper modern center back. That is why Brazil are already looking at him as a real option for the next World Cup. He is not just a defender who clears danger, because he changes the rhythm of the whole team when he steps out from the back. Liverpool are not alone here, and this is where the story starts to heat up. 2 unnamed European heavyweights are also sniffing around. Manchester United even held an early round of talks, but then quickly backed away. And Arsenal are right there as well, because Mikel Arteta loves defenders who can punch progressive passes through the lines. Forest, for their part, are trying to stay calm and look in control. Earlier this year, they handed Murillo a new deal until 2029, which sounds sorted on paper, but in modern football, those contracts do not mean much when the Giants arrive with open checkbooks. If Forest go down to the championship, the whole thing gets even uglier for them. The big clubs would swarm in, and they would try to prize the Brazilian away for a much lower fee, while Forest scramble for cash. Even if they stay in the Premier League, the pressure is going to be enormous. This is just the football food chain in action, because smaller clubs work hard to scout South America, polish the talent, and settle players into the league, then the rich sides show up and try to nick the finished product. In the end, it comes down to Murillo himself, and the choice is a huge one. We are about to find out which project he buys into, and whether that giant price tag helps him shine or starts weighing him down. Adam Wharton looks like a player already packing his bags. According to AS, the Crystal Palace midfielder wants out this summer, and he seems totally convinced he is ready for Champions League football. Or maybe that is simply the line his agents keep whispering in his ear, because that part matters as well. His rise has been ridiculously quick, and a lot of people still have not fully caught up. But for anyone who watches more than highlight reels, none of this feels random. Wharton is a proper midfield metronome, with calm control, sharp positioning, and that rare ability to move the ball without ever looking rushed. That explains why his market value has shifted so dramatically. He is not just the promising kid from a mid-table side anymore, he is now an elite prize. Manchester United are there straight away, because another painful midfield rebuild is brewing at Old Trafford, and they see Wharton as the natural heir to Casemiro. Real Madrid are also watching closely, but their approach is very different. They are not charging into this one, because they have simply added the Englishman to a shortlist as part of a bigger midfield update. It is all very calm, very measured, and very Madrid. Wharton's own desire to leave could be the thing that moves the whole deal along. Crystal Palace are not going to hand over their conductor for pennies, and they are asking for 100 million euros. It is a huge number for a player who has only just established himself, but football economics always start to wobble when the giants come calling. Palace know the pressure could get even worse, because Manchester City and Liverpool are lurking behind the scenes as well. You know how this works, because when clubs like that offer you title fights and a bigger stage, staying at Palace starts to feel physically painful. Wharton now has a huge decision to make, and it could shape everything that comes next. If he really wants the famous white shirt of Real Madrid, he may need to reject the fatter contracts Premier League clubs would gladly throw at him. So is it prestige or money? And is it a role inside Madrid's system or a central place in a project in England? For Palace, losing him would be a tactical mess because the board might love the cash, but who carries the ball, who breaks lines, and who controls the rhythm after he goes? In a perfect world, they would keep him for one more year, climb higher, and make that price tag even stronger. But time and market logic are working against them, and the fact he already wants out makes a summer exit feel almost inevitable. Aston Villa's summer transfer plans are on another level entirely, and this is not a club just trying to pick up a few bargains on the cheap anymore. Under Unai Emery, Villa are prowling the market like proper predators, and the level of ambition at Villa Park right now is genuinely staggering. According to Sportsboom, Villa are working hard on bringing in Jadon Sancho. His deal at Manchester United runs out at the end of the season, and talks over a permanent move are already well underway. On paper, it makes total sense, because Sancho genuinely sparked during his loan spell and showed proper glimpses of that old magic. So why not lock him down for good? But this is where it gets complicated, because Borussia Dortmund are lurking in the background. Sancho's emotional bond with the German club and the pull of a familiar environment could easily tip the scales away from Villa, and he could very well choose that comfort zone instead. What do Villa do if Sancho walks away? Do they go searching for some sort of compromise? Not a chance, because Emery and the club's hierarchy have lined up an alternative that is, frankly, a serious step up. If Sancho slips through their fingers, Villa are ready to go all in on Marcus Rashford. Yes, we are talking about the same Rashford who is currently rebooting his career on loan at Barcelona and doing a proper job of it too. 10 goals so far make it crystal clear, because the lad is not just ticking over, he is back up to full speed. You would have thought Barcelona's £26 million buyout option was already sorted, but this is Barca we are talking about. The Catalans have suddenly flipped into penny-pinching mode and are now trying to haggle with United for a simple loan extension. Manchester United are absolutely not having that, and they want a permanent sale or nothing at all. That financial tug-of-war between the two clubs opens up a brilliant window for Aston Villa to swoop in. The next question is obvious. Why would a 28-year-old Rashford want to come back to England? His lifelong chapter at Old Trafford is done and dusted, and reports suggest he is properly sick of the British tabloids breathing down his neck, so he would much rather play somewhere far away from all that noise. This is where Unai Emery comes into the picture, because the Spaniard has already shown he can take players who have gone off the rails and get them firing again at the highest level. And the word is that Emery is absolutely certain he can talk Rashford round, because the man knows how to sell a project and fit a player into his demanding setup. When you look at this from a business standpoint, having two strong plans running side by side shows a new level of maturity from the Villa camp. They are not panicking in the market anymore, and they are not rushing into bad decisions. If Barcelona keeps squeezing every last penny and United refuse to budge without proper money on the table, Villa will just pounce at the perfect moment. Sancho would bring more finesse and creativity on the wing, but Rashford offers a completely different dimension in attack. We are talking blistering pace, brutal directness, and a burning desire to prove his old club got it wrong. Whichever way this goes, Aston Villa end up with exactly the piece they need for their machine. Staying with Old Trafford, Bruno Fernandes is still dragging Manchester United's midfield through games, but the European media are already trying to pack his bags for him. Not for Real Madrid, Bayern, or PSG either, but for Turkey, because Fichajes say Galatasaray want the deal and are ready to offer 60 million euros. You can understand the thinking. Galatasaray have built a strong squad. They do not want to just show up in the Champions League, and they want to make the knockouts a regular thing. For that kind of jump, they need a top-class creator in the final third, and Bruno would be a major signing. In that league, the game is a bit less brutal. The pressing is not as constant, and the Portuguese midfielder would get far more space to do what he does best. He could spend whole matches picking passes, opening sides up, and controlling the attacking rhythm without being hunted every few seconds. Still, why would Bruno go now? He is 31, he has 8 goals and 16 assists in the Premier League this season, and he is still right in the sweet spot of his career. While we are talking about output, I do have to say this. Some of my regular viewers, especially the Smart TV crew, are putting up a stat line of 0 goals, 0 assists, and 100% silent observation. I know, moving a remote takes proper focus and elite technique, but if Bruno can carry this entire United side, you can carry the cursor over to the thumbs up and give the numbers a little boost. Because we do not need Galatasaray-level ambition in the comments and relegation-level numbers on the likes. For Bruno himself, a move for easier money on the shores of the Bosphorus or over to Saudi Arabia still feels too early. If he really hit the market this summer, clubs chasing trophies at a completely different level would be queuing up because players like this do not stay available for long. Then you get to United's position, and this is the second massive problem with the story. Selling Bruno now would be like ripping out the entire creative engine of the team, because so much of what they build and attack still runs through him. The Daily Mail version sounds far more believable. United are said to be flat out refusing to sell, and the club would rather block any move and risk losing him on a free next year than weaken the side right now. Bruno is also said to be happy enough to stay at Old Trafford, which matters. And if you think United can replace that workload, that leadership, and that level of end product for around 60 million euros in this market, then good luck, because that is a brutal job. So for now, Galatasaray may have to shop elsewhere. Bruno looks set to stay in England, at least until a project shows up that can really match his football ambition.